Now these plant-based chicharrones are so unbelievably good. I mean, incredibly good. Takes just a day to make because you have to dehydrate them, so it takes a little bit overnight. Now, if you don't want to make the dough from scratch, you can make the incredibly easy version that'll cost you no more than $1, $1.50. That version is your macaroni-based version, which is these guys right here. Now, this particular pasta is a ziti. To get these ziti to puff like this, all you do is you just cook them. Once you cook them, you throw them in a dehydrator or in your oven if you want to. You let them dehydrate overnight, and then you fill a small saucepan with some peanut oil, heat up to about 400 degrees. Once it's at 400 degrees, drop your ziti or macaroni, whatever noodle you'll choose to use, into the hot oil. They'll puff up very rapidly and violently. So stand back when you do it and only do a few at a time. Now, I've seen a load of other creators make these. This isn't something new, but I wanted to make my own version, a homemade version. And that's why today we're making these. Now, these are loaded with a very pork-like flavor. They have the noodle, they have a lot more of the bite and the crisp. It's loaded with flavor. I love these, they're so good. So let me show you how to make these. Super easy to make, mostly resting time, mostly it's just sitting overnight, and you're gonna love them. Doesn't take a whole lot of special ingredients, mostly just flour and water. I am so stoked about this. It's gonna be so easy. So to make our chicharrones from scratch, I'm gonna be using a stand mixer. You don't have to. You could combine everything in a regular bowl and just mix it together by hand. So all we're gonna do is mix together 1 cup of flour, a 1/4 teaspoon salt, 1/4 teaspoon liquid smoke, 1/4 teaspoon smoked paprika, 1 teaspoon maple syrup, 1 teaspoon mushroom seasoning, and then we're gonna be doing a 1/4 cup plus 1 tablespoon of warm water. Then I'm just gonna quickly drop on a dough hook and then knead this whole thing together for just a few minutes until it's a solid dough ball. Okay, so this has been kneading for a few minutes. Everything has came together really nice. This dough ball's real nice and firm. All that gluten got worked together. This is gonna be awesome. It smells like my plant-based bacon that I make. I used a very similar technique to make the flavoring. So the next step that we wanna do is we're just gonna kind of just roll this flat, and then we're just gonna wrap this up and let it rest for probably about 30 minutes before we roll it out. Because I'm gonna roll this out into thick, wide noodles. Okay, so our dough ball is looking really good. It's fully hydrated. It's nice and soft. Those glutens got to relax. All we're gonna do now is cut this in half. We're gonna keep the 1/2 wrapped up. We're gonna do this in 2 separate batches. Now, I have a pasta machine here. You can use this to roll your dough really thin into noodles, which is exactly what we're gonna be doing. If you don't have one of these, then just roll it by hand. It's not that hard. This just definitely kind of helps get it smoothed out, very smooth and uniform. So all we're gonna do is just roll this through slowly, and then we're just gonna keep thinning this out until it gets fairly thin. Now, we don't want an incredibly thin pasta. We want this noodle to have a little bit of depth to it, so think about the thickness of the inner wall of a nice, like, macaroni. Now, as this is getting thinner, it's also sticking to itself just a bit, so I'm just going to lightly flour it, so that way it doesn't stick, has like a soft exterior. Now, if you have a pasta machine, this is gonna be on a number 3 setting. That's about as thin as we're gonna get this. Now, all I'm gonna do is just fold this up, and then we're gonna slice it into thick noodles. So I'm probably thinking about, I guess that's probably about 1 inch wide. That's probably gonna be a good thickness for our chicharrone. And I'm probably gonna make them about, I'm thinking 3 inches long is about as long as I want these noodles to be. Now at this point, I'm just gonna cover these up, roll out the second batch, and we're gonna get a pot of water boiling, because we're gonna throw these right into a pot of water. We're gonna let them boil for about 3 to 4 minutes, remove them, tap them dry. So these came out exactly the way that I wanted them to. The really nice, thick noodles. They look really good. They're really nice and dense. Now they should have, like I said, a very mild bacony taste. Wish they do. All we're gonna do is just evenly space these on our dehydrator rack. Now, if you don't have a dehydrator, like I said, that is okay. You can just throw them on a baking sheet covered with some parchment paper and let them bake in the oven overnight on your lowest setting with the door open. That will dehydrate these and dry them out. That's all we're looking to do. is just get them nice and dry. Let's let these dehydrate. I'm so excited. I'll see you all tomorrow. These are gonna be good. Okay, so it's the next day. These look wild. They look perfect. I mean, here, look at them. They look leathery. They look kind of skin-like. I'm a little excited. I think these are gonna come out awesome. Awesome. So all we're gonna do at this point is just like what we did with our pasta noodles. We're gonna heat some peanut oil at just about 400 degrees or a little bit over. You need the oil very hot. And then just a few at a time, 2 or 3 at a time, we're gonna fry these. They should puff up immediately. Once they puff, go ahead and remove them very quickly, otherwise they will burn. Throw them on a paper towel, quickly throw some salt on them, and then you have yourself some chicharrones. Wow! And then that's it. Look at these things. Look at them. They're just perfect. So I just lightly salted them. They have the crispy outside, a little bit more of a bite in the middle, very similar to a chicharrone because a chicharrone just isn't a skin like a pork rind. The chicharrones also have a little bit of the meat to it as well, which is what this mimics perfectly. Unbelievable. Unbelievable.